Hello, everyone. I'm Noah. This is my dad, Mike, and we are the Mental Cases. And today is our second video of talking about fandoms. More specifically, my dad's fandom, which is primarily Star Trek.
Yeah, I would say Star Trek because I don't have a memory in my life where I wasn't watching Star Trek.
Really?
I can honestly say that, yes.
Okay. So my first question, because I don't know if you've ever told me this,
Okay.
when did you first get into Trek? And more specifically, was it like love at first sight, or was it like I needed to watch more of this to get into it?
No, I'm not even kidding. I started watching Star Trek when I was like 4 years old.
Oh, really?
Like a child.
I don't even think you've told me that.
Small,
really?
Yes. I used to go up to the TV. We used to have a black and white TV because black and white TVs were a thing.
Because it was the before time.
It was the before time. And I would go up to the black and white TV and I would stand right up to it and I would try to figure out which star was going to turn into the Enterprise and fly by. You know, that's the opening of the credits.
Was it a different one each time or something?
No, but just as a kid, you see it as a little dot, and then suddenly it gets big and it flies by. So I would get really close and try to see which one would fly by. I would be like this close, like my nose up to the screen.
So immediate love.
Oh yeah, I have memories. I have childhood memories of watching certain episodes. Like I don't have a specific memory, but I have memories of a child watching the episode. So for example, one of my favorite memories of a child. I'm young, 4 or 5 years old. I was of being terrified watching the Corbomite maneuver. Now, if you're a Trek fan, you know that episode.
Okay, explain it for now.
Okay. Basically, the Enterprise encounters this giant sphere that's very intimidating and is going to blow up the Enterprise. And when it's captained by Commander Baylock. And when Baylock comes on the screen, he is this grotesque, horrifying alien with a big white head. And it's this really scary looking puppet. Now, if you saw it today and look up Baylock, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's a ridiculous looking puppet.
Yeah.
You come to find out that it's all sort of smoke and mirrors. That really Baylock is not only friendly. That's not even the real Baylock. Like it was actually an automaton. The real Baylock is actually Ron Howard's brother. As a child actor, right? Clint Howard. It's actually friendly, and it was all just a test, whatever, to see if the Enterprise was violent. But the Baylock puppet was really scary, and the music was very intimidating too. As I got da 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 da, and I used to take the pillows off the couch and lie and
watch. It was a scary movie.
Oh, it was frightening. I was terrified of Baylock. Like I could not even look at Baylock. I was so scared of Baylock. Like again, I'm like 4 or 5 years old. So there was never a time. And during that time, I was like 4 or 5. Your aunt had made me a model of the Enterprise, that they had bought and had glued together.
Yeah.
And I've continuously had a model of the Enterprise ever since, 45 years. And I've always had, and there's several in the house.
Oh, yeah.
I've big ones, the small ones.
Right, you bump into anything and you'll see one.
Right, there's one in like every corner. You'll run into the Enterprise. So I've always had, I've never not had a model of the Enterprise going back to like 4 or 5. So I've always liked it. I really started getting into it, I would say maybe early teens, because it was on after school, like before the news or something. Like back-to-back episodes would come on between 4 and 6, and it was on every day.
Right, and this was back when we had like 3 channels.
Yeah, so it was something to watch, and so I got more and more. But I always liked it. I couldn't wait to see Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and I was 10 when Star Trek: The Motion Picture came out, and I ran to the theater to see it. I was really into it.
Okay.
So I've never not liked Star Trek.
Okay. So then I guess my next question is, what was... Did you... And when... Okay, let me think about it. When did you first meet the Star Trek fandom, basically? Like, when did you realize this was actually a fandom?
Okay, I think... Trekkies, as they were called in the 70s and 80s, were famous for creating the first fandom. So I was aware there were Trekkies in the world outside of where we live.
Right.
I knew that there were other Trekkies because the part of the Trek story were the Trekkies. And this is why it's the template for all other fandoms.
Right.
Star Trek had this hardcore fandom which kept the show on the air.
Right.
Honestly, they were going to cancel after the first season, and it went 3 seasons because the fans kept writing letters, and then they started having these conventions,
Right. All for
and
this show.
which then brought Star Trek into reruns and into the general
Right,
public,
which is what you would had ended
right?
up
Which
seeing.
I was ended up watching. So like there's always so the Trekkies being a part of the whole thing, as they were called then,
Hmm.
it was known. So I knew there were other Trek
Other Trek
fans.
fans.
Later on, when you met a Trek fan, like in the 80s or whatever, as I got older, it was really great because being a Trek fan meant something in the 70s and 80s. Now it means nothing. It means nothing because Trek has gone through all sorts of things. But in the 70s and 80s, it meant something. It was basically your VIP card to intelligentsia. Okay, if when you heard that someone else likes Star Trek, you're like, oh, you're smart. You're someone who reads books. I can talk to you. Like immediately,
We can have an
we
intelligent
can have
conversation.
Like yeah, and when they heard it, they're like, "Oh, you like Star Trek? You're not a dumbass. Let's have a conversation." Like it immediately meant, "Oh, I'm dealing with a smart person." It was basically your identification card into being a smart person, and that was very meaningful. So as you met people later, as you went on, people who liked it, they said, "Oh, you're somebody who's
So in a way, it
very
was
very smart."
it was a nerd badge of honor.
Oh, absolutely! It was the ultimate nerd badge of honor. It was the and now it's not, but at the time it was the most important badge of honor that there was.
Well, okay. Well, let's get on that a little bit. Like, what happened? When did it? Why do you feel like it was a badge of honor, but then not became one? Like, what shifted? Was it the fandom? Was it the show, or both?
No, no, no. It didn't it didn't start shifting until the 90s. And it was a slow shift. It started with Deep Space Nine, and there's going to be Deep Space Nine fans who are going to be mad that I said that, but get over it. But
Oh, I can't
really,
wait.
it was a little bit, and then Voyager was like, oh. But for me, when I was like, my moment where I lost faith in Trek was Enterprise,
Oh yeah.
Star Trek Enterprise. That's what I was
I've
like.
heard
Oh,
that's like not a great one.
no, because it's basically trying to usurp classic Trek. It's trying to be the new classic Trek. It's basically the first time. It's almost like trying to like a reboot prequel.
Right.
You know,
Right.
the way Rogue One is a reboot prequel.
Right,
It was like
or
trying to
something
do
like
that.
Yeah.
With Star Trek, and I didn't like that at all. And it was kind of, and by this time, Star Trek had gotten watered down. That's when I really started losing hope and losing faith in it. And then when the J.J. Abrams movies came out, I realized this isn't even my Trek at all. This looks like my Trek, but this is actually someone else's Trek, and that's okay. I wasn't. I saw all 3 movies. You know, we actually went.
Yeah.
But that Trek belonged to another generation, another type of sci-fi fan, another person. But I think it was. I put for me Star Trek Enterprise.
Okay. Did you notice any sort of shift, or even now, if you've kept up on it, like with the fandom, or have they stayed strong and and kept going?
Well, the first shift came between. There was a schism between classic Trek fans and the next generation.
That's an
Yes.
upcoming question.
Yes,
but,
there
like,
was a schism because friends I had who were into Star Trek did not jump over into the next generation. I was surprised
Really?
at that. Yes, they just they didn't want to go. And not a lot, but that was the first time. Me, I gladly I couldn't wait for the next generation. I had a calendar. It was marking down the days on the calendar in 1987, the summer of 1987,
great.
to like the encounter at Farpoint. It's true. I was all like, cannot wait for this show to start. That was the first time. But then I think each time there was a new show, there was a little bit of a split. I remember I went to a Star Trek convention
right
in Boston with your mom.
Oh,
Actually,
really?
yes. And we were in line to get in, and there was somebody behind us, and he said, and this was at the height of the next generation. They said, well, I'm not really here for other Trek. I'm just a fan of Deep Space Nine. And my first thought in my mind was, what an idiot. that was the first thing that went into my head. And now I realize, okay, everybody can.
Because that's to give a little of my perspective. Like we've watched Trekkie stuff,
Yeah.
and like we've seen Trekkies, and like I've always noticed that like there's always like somebody who likes classic Trek, somebody who likes Next Generation, and somebody who likes, I don't know, Voyager or something. And they're always kind of like, no, that's the best captain. No, this is the best captain. Like, all this stuff. Like, it feels like almost with each show, it was creating a schism that ultimately, like, only this part of the fan base likes that, and this part of the fan base likes
Yes,
that.
and that's not too, that wasn't too bad. But what I find now is that the Star Trek fan base is not as smart as it used to be. I know that's very critical and cynical, but it's just not. They accept more dumbness than we would have. We accepted dumbness in like classic Trek because we had no choice. We had to accept
Right,
it.
like again, you have like 3 channels. It's only on like
Right.
once.
There's only
and,
3
like,
seasons of classic
right.
Trek.
Who cares that Kirk is fighting a guy in clearly a costume? Like, who cares?
Hey, we like those costumes. Those are not even the bad episodes. But like the 3rd season, NBC was going way out of its way to sink the show. They destroyed its budget. They changed its producers. So the last season of Classic Trek is terrible.
Oh.
But like we accept that because we had no choice. It wasn't our fault that they did that. But I find that current fandom is more accepting of a softer science fiction. So, for example, the J.J. Abrams movies are not really good science fiction. They're exciting.
Yeah, they're action packed.
They're action packed, but it's not really as thoughtful as, say, Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Oh yeah, with like the satellite and like having some sort of love thing you've told me about, like some sort of.
Well, that's at the end, but the whole right. That's like what is V'ger and its consciousness and all that. It's it was aiming high, but the Abrams Trek, it really isn't like that. The Abrams Trek is really
it's focused on being actiony and witty.
Right. It's actually trying to be Star Wars, and succeeds, to be honest. But and that's fine. But Star Trek. One of the things I liked about Trek as a fan is that Trek attempted to be smart science fiction. That's why classic Trek was great. That's why The Next Generation was great. It was trying to be smart science fiction on TV. It wasn't trying to be dumb. It wasn't trying to be silly. It wasn't trying to be, a kids show. It was trying to be as thought-provoking and entertaining as possible, but also intelligent. I appreciate it.
Right, and
as a fan, I appreciate it.
Right, and in a sense, it's almost prophetic because, like, the pager, the communicator things look like cell phones, and what ended up happening like decades later.
Hey, watch The Next Generation. They're all walking around with iPads.
Are they?
Yes, they're all walking around with.
Oh, wow.
Watch The Next Generation. They're all walking around with iPads. When Spock and everyone's using the tricorder, just like when people are filming things with their phones.
Oh,
video
that's great.
thing, yeah, it's way ahead of its time.
They're taking selfies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I would feel remiss if I didn't ask the important Trek question.
All right.
Kirk or Picard?
That's a tough one. That's always been a tough one. It's tough because classic Trek is close to my heart.
Yes.
But I love The Next Generation. I love The Next Generation as much as classic Trek. I think The Next Generation is equal to classic Trek. Not the movies. I don't like The Next Generation movies. That's another time where I realized the party was over. It was when I saw Star Trek Generations.
Oh yeah.
The Next Generation movies just were not very good movies. So that also answers the question. I repressed that because it was so terrible. But Kirk or Picard, it's a tough for me. I have a hard time with it. I always lean towards Kirk because it's classic Trek is my first love. But like, do I love Captain Picard? Yeah, everybody loves Captain Picard. Nobody does. There's nobody who's like, "Oh, Captain Picard, what a jerk!"
Right.
Nobody
That's
say that.
That's why I think people ask it because it's like these two. They're two very well defined characters that you can totally get behind.
Yes.
Shatner is doing a spectacular job as Kirk, and what's his name?
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart. I just couldn't think of it in the moment. Patrick Stewart is like, oh my god, like of the Next Generation you've shown me, like, oh my god, he's so commanding as like the leader of the Enterprise.
Yeah, he does a great job. You believe that he's the captain.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I'm still a fan. Like, I've been watching Discovery. I watched the first season of Star Trek Discovery, and Discovery is interesting because, like, it's basically Trek trying to Rogue One itself. Like, the funny thing about Discovery is that it makes some really old and bad trope choices, but it does those choices really, really well, so I can't be mad at it.
Really?
So, for
Okay.
example, Discovery is basically trying to do what Enterprise did. It's trying to Rogue One so that we forget about... So Rogue One is
Right,
an attempt
trying
to
to
forget about
rewrite
the
history.
prequels.
Right, it's
Like,
trying to
no,
re-
these are the real prequels, Rogue One, and, you know. And that's what Enterprise was trying to do. Forget Classic Trek. And same thing with Discovery. Discovery's trying to Rogue One, Enterprise, and Classic Trek. But it actually does a better job than Enterprise.
Okay.
You know, it does a better job at it.
Does that give you hope at all, or is it like, maybe this is just like a white?
No,
you know,
because
just,
another thing that happened with Trek is that Trek is now all about its own lore and the past. And this is why, in the end, I would say Classic Trek is actually the true Trek and the best of Trek. Because Classic Trek doesn't rely on anything at all. It's all innovative. It's all new. Even the Next Generation is operating within the spirit of Classic Trek. But like one thing about Discovery is like they're trying to cram in, this is taking place in the canon. You know,
Right,
they're trying
right,
to jam in everything. Klingons, tribbles, you know.
remember this?
Remember Sarek? You know, they're trying to jam in as much.
God?
Yeah, they're trying to jam in as much as the past. And as a fan, yeah, I appreciate it. Like, here's the thing, like, again, like, do I need to see Sarek for like the third time, you know, in a thing? No. But at the same time, do I like the Sarek that's in Discovery? I do like him. He's okay. Like, I can't be mad they didn't do a bad job with him.
Right. But, so from what I'm hearing, it feels very much like what Discovery is doing is fan service.
Yes, they're doing a lot of fan service, and they're doing it well, and I do feel served as a fan.
Right, but you
it's
need
not
more
as innovative.
right, you need more substance than just fan service.
Like the you know, Star Trek, Classic Trek was so innovative in what, especially for its time.
Oh, yeah.
Look at other '60s shows. There's nothing that's talking about the things that Classic Trek's talking about. It's so amazing.
Like,
and
didn't
even,
it have like the first white and black woman kiss?
yeah,
White
Uhura
man,
and Nichelle Nichols and William Shatner. Yeah, they kiss in one of the worst episodes too. One of the worst episodes, Plato's Stepchildren. Awful. Everyone talks about Spock's brain. Spock's brain is not nearly as bad as Plato's Stepchildren. Awful. But still, it happens in that episode.
Yeah, but it's like it was very innovative even for the time.
Oh yes,
especially for the time.
It was very innovative, and the Next Generation was very innovative in lots of ways. You know, one of the things I liked about the Next Generation is that. So, for example, this is what I like to see in Discovery. What I like about the Next Generation is that the Next Generation went back to doing episodes about the Prime Directive. None of the classic Trek movies, you know, Star Trek 1, 2, 3, 4, none of them are about the Prime Directive. You know, they're all about adventure and things, but they're not about like, you know, we're not going to, how do we interact with this culture without interfering with it? The Next Generation returned to that, and that was great. That was one of the great things about Classic Trek, was this whole problem of being on a planet without interfering with the planet, but still having to like make something happen. That was great drama. You know, but I would say as a fan, I appreciate that Discovery is at least trying to make this Trek for a fan. Like, you have to be a fan of Star Trek to get Discovery, and I appreciate that part of it. But
it needs to
seeing
work
triples
harder.
again is not what made me fall in love with Trek.
Right, it needs to be working harder to be something new.
And something smarter. Yeah, something smarter. I liked Trek because it was smart. I like Trek because it blew my mind. I like Classic Trek now because it blows my mind sometimes. I always think, my God, this is so smart for like 50-year-old episodes.
1960.
Right, well, 65, 66.
Right.
Yeah. Same thing, Next Generation, very smart.
Okay, so would you say you are still a Star Trek fan?
Oh yes. I actually was watching Amok Time the other day. That's Classic Trek. Yeah, I was in between things. Like, I'm just gonna watch some.
So
yes, I'm still the class, and I watched the Next Generation. I'll sit through some Next Generation episodes.
So then, despite everything, the schisms and everything you've basically you're still sticking with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'll even stick with the fandom, even though a lot of things that are bad in fandoms in general, like, started with Trek. Like, for example, Trek was the first to have like expanded universe. Trek invented that.
Doesn't have books and stuff.
Yes, that was the first. You know, in the 70s, they were writing books to fill in the gaps of Trek and wanting to have other adventures with Kirk and Spock and McCoy.
Right.
Sort of invented all that. That went total fan service crazy.
Oh yeah,
in
sure.
Star Wars.
That's what it feels like when you're not doing the main thing. It's always
Trek
fan service.
entitlement. Being entitled because Trek fans were like, we.
Oh yeah, that's what you basically just said earlier. It's like we're smart because we watched this show.
And you still have jobs because of us. That sort of entitlement comes out of Trek. Even weird perverse stuff that starts with Trek.
Oh yeah, I saw that in the Trek fandom documentary or whatever.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely. There's always that started in Trek. Trek was the first to do shipping. Believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
There was in the 70s there was a whole bunch of expanded universe gay erotic literature between Kirk and Spock.
Oh, geez.
That was written by women for women. It wasn't even written for the gay community. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a whole thing. So
that's nutty.
It's Trek fandom is to be a part of the beginning of something. When we go to Comic-Con, we're going to something that originally really started with Trek, like with Trek conventions and fans getting together.
Well,
and all of that.
Okay, so from that perspective, then. Being basically the birthplace of fandom,
yes.
What has been your experience seeing so many other fandoms and seeing how good or bad they go or anything?
Well, again, the fascinating thing is that it all follows the pattern of Trek fandom.
Really? Okay.
Yes, that basically Trek fandom is the template to which everything else follows. You want to know what's going to happen in your fandom? Go back in time and look at what happened in Trek fandom.
Right.
Are
your people starting to get entitled? Guess what happened back in Trek?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And how that affects the show and all sorts of things.
So does that, okay. So then I guess as a small question, so does that make you then feel even more entitled? Or not entitled, but it really makes you go wow, I was literally part of the first fandom.
I don't feel entitled, but what makes me sad is that when we go to these things, because Noah and I go to Comic-Con and we'll do some Comic-Con episodes,
yeah, I'm sure,
when it comes up, is that I've met a lot of Trek stars at Comic-Con now. I met more Trek stars at Comic-Con than I ever did at a Star Trek convention.
Oh yeah,
but it's also because the Trek stars are all B-listers now, and so it's real easy to meet.
Right?
We met William Shatner. We walked right up to William Shatner. It was amazing. I don't think
he even had a line.
At that moment, he didn't.
Oh wow!
Whereas other things at Comic-Con, Gal Gadot, wait in line for 5 hours.
Stan Lee.
We waited in line with Stan Lee. Well, someday we'll tell our Stan Lee story.
Yeah.
We waited in line 4 or 5 hours for Stan Lee.
It was 4 or 5.
Easily. But that's always strikes me wow, times have really changed. Right. There was a time when you went to a convention, you couldn't possibly get access to William Shatner or Leonard Nimoy, and now you can just walk right up to Brent Spiner.
Right. And who did we meet last Comic-Con?
Geordie LaForge. LeVar Burton. Met LeVar Burton. I've met almost all of the Next Generation.
Have you met Patrick Stewart?
No, I haven't met Patrick Stewart, and I haven't met Jonathan Frakes. Which is what I want. I can't wait.
He wasn't at that one?
No.
That was someone else?
No, I didn't meet Jonathan Frakes.
Have you met Wesley Crusher?
No, I haven't met Will Wheaton.
Okay.
But I've met everyone else. I've met Worf. I've met Dr. Crusher. I've met Deanna Troi. I've met them all. I've met all those.
All right. Well, do you have any last thoughts about Trek and fandom or anything?
Yeah, I think one of the things, this is one thing that's very different in our fandoms, is that your fandom had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And my fandom has no beginning, no middle, no end. It's just sort of eternal. I don't have a memory.
Right.
I don't have a memory of oh, here's this show. It's called Star Trek. I will sit and watch it and have an opinion. I don't have that. I have memories going as far back as I can, just watching it and loving it. And I still watch it now. I've never not liked Star Trek. I'll say this. I want to say one thing. One thing that always cracks me up is that, the term Trekkie, we didn't invent that. Those were people making fun of us, jocks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Trek.
Oh, I thought you guys owned that.
No.
Made that.
Well, we own it now because it became our name. But we didn't, unlike Brony, you guys invented Brony.
No.
We didn't invent Trekkie. And the rebellion against the name Trekkie, people in the 90s began calling themselves Trekkers. And that's even dumber, That's even that
Oh yeah,
you
you've
get
told
even
me
a
that.
stronger punch in the face for that.
Right, because that even sounds worse.
Oh, it sounds worse. It sounds like you're trying so hard to be cool. Like that's why I just say Trek fan.
For Trekkie.
No, I say Trekkie because other people
Have
understand
salty.
that.
Okay.
But by myself in my mind, I never refer to myself as a Trekkie.
Okay.
I refer to myself as a Trek fan. I like the show.
I just like the show. I'm watching for the plot.
That's right.
I'm not.
But I don't. But again, the difference being, I don't have a time. There's never been a time in my life where I wasn't watching or loving the show.
Why do you think that is? That Trek almost feels eternal,
Eternal.
and other fandoms feel like they live and die almost immediately. Do you think it's because of the internet? Because my brain is immediately going, it might be because the internet is such a fickle place.
Well, yeah, that's true. I think Trek is special, and I'm being old school. I'm referring to classic Trek. Classic Trek is very, very special. Again, look at shows that existed between 1966 and 1969, and look at Star Trek. There is nothing like Star Trek on TV anywhere. It's really very, very unique, telling very, very unique shows with very, very unique characters. It's really very special. I think it has longevity. It had longevity because it was just a very intelligent, unique show. It wasn't just your average cop show, lawyer show, sitcom.
Right. Just the clear
Honestly, all sci-fi shows now are trying to be Trek.
Oh, I'm sure. Like there's that newish one with Seth MacFarlane called the Orville.
Right, the Orville, which is basically goofing
Trek.
on Trek.
Right,
It's now
basically just Trek.
It's being goofy Trek.
Right.
But they're just trying to be Star Trek in lots of ways. There was Firefly that was on for a while. That was a show that was on for 3 episodes. I know. Firefly fans.
You want to start a flame war, man. Don't. We don't need Firefly people on our comments.
That show that was on for 40 minutes?
With that movie nobody watched?
Yeah, exactly. With that movie that nobody watched.
Okay, I think we've done enough today.
See, that's Trek coming out. I can make fun of Firefly and the hierarchy. Please, we got Star Trek, we got The Next Generation, we got Picard and Kirk and Spock.
Right. You guys got 5 episodes.
You got 5 episodes. We have the Borg.
Right. Okay. I think that's enough for today. Let's end the episode. So,
all right.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe to us. Check us out on Facebook
and Patreon.
All right.
Support us on Patreon.
Yes. Thank you for watching.